This is your home for St. Cloud State hockey, keeping you up to date on the NCHC.
And your one-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Permix!
Women's WCHA.
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
The National Hockey League.
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill, the thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL, a game winner!
And everything from the state of hockey.
St. Cloud Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.
Welcome to the Huskies Warming House Podcast Den.
Episode number 67 of the Healthy Scratch interview segment. Nick, we have first-time guests on the show sometimes. The guest that we had on tonight doesn't qualify for that category. Ben Holden joined us. How the heck was this interview? What a blast this one was.
Well, again, a little bit of a hiatus. He was with us for some time, and then, work stuff kind of got in the way, and that's totally great. I know Ben is he's in a transition time, but again, what I love about Ben, and I think you and I have always appreciated this about him, but I think as more people listen to him, especially in kind of a non-professional sense, if that is right, he's just a great human being. It's just, he's a guy that, you can tell that he answers from the heart. He's intelligent, he's articulate, and he just loves the game of hockey. And so whenever you get a person on that has those characters, whether or it's a broadcaster, or hell, it could be the camera guy, I could care less, right? But the guy that just, bleeds this game and the players and the relationships, it's always makes it for a fun interview. And it's always good to have him back. It's God, was it 3 months?
Yeah.
3 months, if not longer. So,
it's been a while. And I think the piece that was impressive is it's been a while, but he's still reciting facts on the air and off the air about us, and the things that we do that, are spot on. And he remembers. That shows how dedicated he is to the craft. And it shows how much, he tolerates us, right? And is able to, spend some time with us. I mean, how often do you get a veteran broadcaster who's been at that level to be able to join your little rinky-dink podcast? Not only as a co-host, he's the only co-host we ever had, but to have him back on the show and have him probably slated back right before hockey season starts again. And, all the things that he's done for us, we can't say enough about him. And we couldn't say enough about hockey in general in this episode, Nick. Kind of a lengthier one, but it just was absolutely exciting to be a part of. So, Nick, should we keep the listeners waiting, or do you think we should roll into it?
Send it. All
right, let's do it. Episode number 67 with our pal, Ben Holden.
Episode number 67 here at the Huskies Warming House Podcast in the Healthy Scratch interview, and joining us again from a little bit of a leave of absence, but only because he's been super busy. He's a very, very well-respected broadcaster, Ben Holden. Welcome back into the show. Happy to see you, buddy.
What's up, boys? Good to see you guys, man. And I got a new look. You guys got the great look going that you have. I got a new room. I'm trying to show my colors for the cup, although one more game and the Montreal jersey's coming down, but nevertheless, good to be with you guys, man. I miss hanging and talking with you guys and talking puck, man. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you here tonight.
Well, we know that we're not recording in the morning because you don't have your regular Tim Hortons in your hand.
I got it though.
Oh,
he's got it. He's sporting it.
So the big
a college athlete, man. I'm looking for a sponsorship.
I think it's the MTV shirt that will really bring in the money here. The question
that's a fantastic shirt.
Yeah. The question behind you here, Ben, geez, I don't know who I'm talking to today, Ben. The Montreal Canadiens, do they actually have a shot at coming back in this cup final? I read somewhere there's a 3% chance of them actually winning the cup.
So Dumb and Dumber, man. You're saying there's a chance. I mean, they were down 3-1 to Toronto. Now, Toronto's a different animal, as we know, or should I say Tampa Bay is a different animal than Toronto is. Tampa Bay is a hockey team that doesn't choke. Tampa Bay is a team that wins. Tampa Bay is a team with superstars that produce when it matters. So I'll take my foot off the throat of Toronto just with those statements. So I think they have a chance, but I think it's very little chance. I think the 3% no is right on.
A little high, maybe.
Maybe two. But there's a chance.
It's a Stanley Cup final, right? But you can't. Right. It ain't over till it's over. And I'm with you, Ben. It's going to be a short chance. And again, with Tampa, their guys produce, but even more so, they're able to get around what Montreal's been doing defensively, which a lot of teams haven't been able to do. With Vegas, they haven't been really able to shut down the Tampa's top performers, and they're 4 lines deep. Everybody can produce, and I think that's just an animal they just haven't come across yet. So it's going to be tough for Montreal. Though obviously, it's a must win in their barn. They got to hold serve in game 3, but it's going to be not an easy task. Not at all.
No, I mean, even the game on Wednesday, game 2, I mean, look at the guys that scored. Their top guys didn't do much of anything. Their top guys were shut down. And I'm telling you guys right now, that goal that Blake Coleman scored is going to be one of the most legendary goals that's ever been scored in the Stanley Cup playoffs, man. I mean, that was clutch, awesome. Man. That was the backbreaker.
Yep.
Because Montreal had them where they wanted. It was 1-1. They had the miscue with, the Edmondson dump, and literally and figuratively, and I think Palat yelled at him personally, but there was bad communication. It wasn't a hard enough dump as we now know and we saw. So those couple things. I mean, that turned that game on its head. And I'll be honest, guys. You see how many people you guys think were outside of the Bell Center for the last round of the playoffs? Like 20,000?
More than they're letting into the building, which is insane.
I mean, it's a shame they're not letting them in. I mean, it really is. And that place, I mean, electric every time the Canadians play at home, but in the finals, man, that place would be bonkers. So that's kind of a shame to me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the real question, Ben, is where the heck were your Detroit Red Wings this year?
Oh, geez.
They're still rebuilding.
Speaking of Detroit, Ben, I wasn't as surprised to see Jeff Blashill get a 1-year extension. Again, I think from Stevie Y's perspective, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to decipher. I mean, a lot of what he has to work with isn't his fault. I do think this is coming to a show me season for Detroit to see if they can start climbing the ladder. And I actually think there's some good pieces there. I think you bring back Bobby Ryan. I think there's a lot of good pieces of, who was the pickup from Washington that I thought played really, really well.
Well, they had Verana, and they had, it
was Mantha that went over there, and I'm trying to think who they got. Oh, Jacob Verana. Yeah, I think he was really, really good. So you have some promising pieces there. You're not close to what Ottawa, I think, is going to do next year. Ottawa's going to be a damn good team to watch. But look for Detroit. I think they'll start to make the push up, but it's definitely going to be a much more pressure on that coaching staff to see if they can turn that team around.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, Nick. And I mean, to me, to change coaches, I mean, there was a lot of people that in this area where I live, outside Detroit in the metro area, that wanted a new coach. But I don't think that's not the answer. I mean, this team was gutted. They were at rock bottom. The organization hadn't been in this situation, guys, since the early 80s when Mike Ilitch bought the team. I mean, even when he bought them, it took 3, 4, and then they get Yzerman and 5, and then they start playing. Then they had to go up against Edmonton all those years, and they could never get by Edmonton. And I say that a lot about a lot of different teams and a lot of different sports. And I felt this year with Colorado, they would fit in this category. Sometimes you have to lose before you win, and you got to feel the pain. And that's a team that, Detroit did that. And for 20 years, everyone except Detroit fans hated the Red Wings. So, I think it was the right move to keep Blash, and I think he's got the ear of those young guys. He's been with a lot of them. And you're right. This is a year where they've got to see market improvement. I mean, winning 25 games isn't going to cut it anymore. It's just not. They've got to threaten with the playoffs for the entire year to start seeing the improvement that I think, and I believe in Steve Yzerman. I don't have him on my wall behind me for nothing, guys. You know that. So, I mean, I believe in him. Look at Tampa's team. A large part of that team is what he built and helped develop. I'm not giving him credit for it, but he is part of that. And so if they can do what they've done, the Wings can certainly do it again here, guys.
Speaking of teams that are growing, former team for Jeff Blashill, the Western Michigan Broncos, probably on the rise this year for the NCHC. And when you talk about feeling the pain of losing before you get to that next hump, UMass did it a couple of years ago, finally got over the hump this year, and our St. Cloud State Huskies are hopefully the next ones to be on the docket there. You got a chance, obviously, to take in, like we all did, the Frozen Four and the incredible journey for the Huskies. I mean, what was your overall impression of this team and the fact that they don't lose many bodies and they bring 3 really good freshmen in?
Well, first and foremost, that's going to be a really, really good hockey team next year. Secondly, I'm really happy for their entire group. As you guys know, I know a lot of their guys. Brett Larson's an amazing human being. He's always been first rate, first class with me. And that's just the way we operate. He's a good man. Just so many great memories and years of being around the program. You love to see that happen for their guys. And, I don't think there were many people when Brett got hired that said he's not the right guy. He's clear. He was the right guy then, and he's clearly the right guy now, because they gave him, a 7-year extension. I saw it wasn't too long ago. So
Correct.
I was happy for those guys. I felt terrible for Brodzinski. I was actually texting with his dad, and, he's just, I know that family, as you guys know, from Johnny and Easton, and I didn't know Mike that well, but, just a great family, great people. And I was really happy for him. And I have my hat on for him, man. I was wearing the hat when they played, man. Friendships and relationships don't disappear just, because I'm not doing games in that conference anymore. That doesn't change anything for me, guys. You guys know me well enough. And I think the people that watch this know me as well in that regard. And I care, and I want to see people do well. And I was really happy for them. Sucks they didn't get it done, but they're a top 5 team coming into this season, man. No question about it. And I don't know who the other 4 teams are. I could probably throw a couple out, but they're a top 5 team.
I was going to say,
they're a top 5 team, and not in the conference, in
the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're an easy top 5 team. And I think they're going to have a hell of a year coming back. They've got that, as you mentioned, Noah, and we touched on, they've got that feeling of getting so close. And like Western, they're going to be dangerous too, man. They're always a dangerous team, and a lot of bad things happen for them, as we know. The injury to Bussy in the pod, they were a disaster for a couple games. But that's a hockey team that you're gonna bring your hard hat, or you're gonna get beat up playing that team. They play hard, they play heavy, they've got skill, and I think that's a dangerous team to look out for in the NCHC, along with St. Cloud and others.
Yeah, pretty much every team, I guess.
Right.
It's kind of interesting. When we did our NCHC preview with Western, did you know their power play best in the NCHC at over 30%, 31.5% for them? Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
When we've gone through our NCHC previews right now, we've got CC in that last place spot, followed by Miami, Denver, Omaha, Western, then North Dakota, St. Cloud, and Duluth is the list that we kind of had in our order. You agree or disagree?
So that's for this year. That's what you projected last year.
That's what we project for this upcoming season.
Give me it again.
CC, Miami, Denver, Omaha, Western, Nodak, St. Cloud State, and Duluth.
I can't argue with that. I'd really like to argue with you guys on that, but I'm sure we'll come up with something else to argue about. I think that's pretty spot on. I think, Colorado College, tough place to recruit, tough place to win. I will say this, and I got to give a shout out. He's a Nodak guy, and I love him. And I think you guys do too, Jake Brandt. And Jake and I became buddies in the bubble. And he texted me as soon as that job was open. He goes, Chris Mayotte is the guy. He was the first person. I mean, others said it, and that's a great hire is where I'm going here. I think with Miami, I think you're right on. Denver 6th.
Yep.
They were a strange team last year. I mean, they were really close to being a top 10, maybe even a top 5 team just 2 or 3 weeks in, but they had a bunch of 1-goal losses. Mm-hmm. I think Savoy's got to mature. I mean, if you look at, I'm not comparing him to Cole Caulfield, but if you look at guys from year one that are high-end guys like him, that he's got to grow up a little bit in the maturity standpoint. But he's a dangerous guy, and he's a high-end guy.
Yeah, Denver. I should add before we jump to Omaha, Denver's underlying statistics. Like if you didn't know their record and looked at their statistics, you wouldn't think that they were a team that finished 5th, technically 6th in the NCHC last year.
No, you're right. I mean, their power play, I don't know the number, but I'm sure it was good. I mean, with guys like Savoy and the skill they have. Omaha, that's another team. I mean, I love that team last year. I really did. It was, I'll be honest, guys, we haven't talked since the tournament, like you said. It was cool to have them in my regional in Colorado. You know, again, my ties to the conference, I'll always be tied to it. Part of it a long time in the broadcast world. And I root for our teams. And I still say our because I still feel very close to so many people. I mean, I texted with a couple coaches the other day, you know, just random things. And, you know, so I think that's a really good hockey team. Again, I think they got a lot of skill. Their back end is good. Up front, they're good. You know, they can play a little nasty, as we've seen when they get with Nodak. And, you know, they bring the best and the worst out in a lot of teams. And I mean that respectfully. And you guys know what I mean.
Yeah. Speaking of those random thoughts, Ben, 19.2% for Denver on the power play this year.
Thank you. There you go. So that's good. That's a good power play.
Yep.
You know, 20% basically. Western Michigan, to me, and I said this last year, guys, but again, with the injury to Bussy, it threw him sideways. I mean, they were completely sideways. Mm-hmm. I mean, they gave up 18 goals. I remember, I'll never forget, Andy Murray said, I don't know, I might be the first coach that's ever coached a team that's given up 18 goals in back-to-back games. That team was a disaster. And if I would have voted, I would have voted for Andy as coach of the year in the conference. I would have. I really honestly would have. Maybe that's my Michigan bias, but
no, because I think, Ben, the one thing that, you know, again, because you remember St. Cloud lost to Western Michigan, you know, after that, was it 2-1?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. 2-1. And, you know, there was uproar with our fan base because they were looking at the previous two and going, why aren't we smacking them around, you know, kind of thing. Yep. And, you know, for us guys who know the game and know the players, I don't think it was any surprise that they turned it around. But no question that, you know, that loss of their starting goaltender, I think was it Aslanitis, hadn't played a game in almost a year.
Right.
And then I forget their other senior
Austin
goaltender,
Kane.
Austin Kane. Thank you.
Kane was the guy hadn't played in over a year, Nick. It was
Austin.
Kane.
That's right, Austin Kane, because he was the senior goaltender.
Right.
They started with him. They ended up getting over to Aslanitis, and they finally started to settle down after a little bit towards the end of the pod. But they were a team that was straight up the rest of the season. Then gave St. Cloud fits. They gave everybody fits. And I truly thought that if they had made it deeper in I think they had a shot to win the NCHC. I really thought they did. I think they were a dark horse. And had they gotten into a bid, I think at the NCAA, they could have made some noise. I really do believe that.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
It looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, well, it's just, it was a very painful way for them to end the season the way they did in that NCHC, that overtime game. Ben, I know our listeners have heard this, but just for your records, 8-3-1-1 in their last 13 games for Western Michigan to end the year. And they don't lose much. They lose 4 guys, and they're bringing in, I believe it's 5 guys, and a huge freshman class potentially too. I mean, they're a team that similar to Denver could finish a lot higher than I think a lot of people have them pegged, you know?
Yeah, no, great. And I mean, 8-3-1. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I remember when we kind of stopped doing things in late February, whenever it was, we had all talked about, watch out for this team. This team's a dangerous team. And they're to me, the dark horse in the NCHC. I would say them in Denver, because I think both teams are capable of being better, but both teams got a lot to prove. And so those two would be in that category for me. North Dakota was 3rd. That'll really settle in well in Grand Forks.
I was gonna say, Nick, if I'm not allowed to get across the border at the Red River Valley there, you know why. So
right. But to your point, Ben, about being dark horse, North Dakota, we know, like we mentioned, you know, they reload. But I think, you know, they did lose a lot of the experience that was in the roster. And again, with the number of players, it's going to be, you know, if they gel quick and they gel early, they could easily be number 1 in the conference. I think the question for them is how well do they gel? How well do those young kids, a lot of them true freshmen, come in and adapt to the college game? We all know the skill levels there. We all know Brad Berry's a hell of a coach, and that coaching staff as a whole has done a fantastic job. But I do think it just comes down to how quickly that team can become one and get under Brad Berry's system.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, they got a kid in Sanderson he's as good as they come. I mean, you know, I've heard many say Cale Makar, and I can't argue with him. I think he's not the same type of player, but he's, in terms of his skill, I think he's right there with him too. The little bit I've seen, I didn't see a lot of him last year, but a little bit I've seen, I think he's right there. And yeah, I mean, and I think it's interesting to keep an eye out because I'm sure you guys have seen, the great work that our buddy Schlossman does. And I think he's spot on with Dane Jackson. And, look, if Dane leaves, Brad's going to go out and find a coach to come in that's right for their system. I mean, Carl Gehring's there. I think Carl's another guy that could go. I mean, he's got experience. He was with Tampa for a couple of years. He played for, Hack was there, and then they got the connection. I don't think that would disrupt them, but I think losing Danes would be a significant loss for them if they do. But again, I think Brad would go out and find a guy that, fits what they need in that role. So, and then you got Duluth second, right? That was your pick.
We had St. Cloud second, actually. Interestingly enough.
What? Well, then that's where we got an argument.
Okay. I figured it'd be a little self-serving if we put St. Cloud at 1, right?
Well, I'll put them there.
Okay.
I'm putting them there. They got to be 1. They have to be.
They absolutely have a chance to be, Ben. But again, you talk about the dark horses in this roster. Western Michigan is going to be better. I think Omaha could make a push. Denver could be better. Yeah. I think the conference as a whole could have some of the almost the most parity we've seen in some time. So I think it's going to be really, really tough for this St. Cloud State team to repeat. I suppose being top of the notch there. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think, one thing that St. Cloud State has to do is we've talked about this pre-show in a couple different in different ways. I think St. Cloud's approach this year is that they're still an underdog. If you go in and thinking that you're going to be the cream of the crop and not, play like you're a goal behind, they're going to end up, I think being short of expectations. And that's the big thing. They have expectations this year. They didn't have them last year. So I think that's really where it comes down to. The mentality for the squad is going to be really key to get them not only back to where they were, but try to make it all the way back to the promised side and try to actually take home the hardware that they were just short last season.
Well, I think you're right, Nick. And I think I'll just throw this in real quick. I mean, they got to adapt to playing with a target on their back.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
They do. That's new territory. I mean, yeah, they've been, they had the 30-win season and, won the league and all that. I understand that. But where they went, that's where everyone wants to get, man. So that's a red letter game for everybody now, not just, North Dakota or Duluth or, insert team, Minnesota when they play the Gophers, whatever it is. It's a red letter game for everybody. So that's something they're going to have to learn to do. And I know they'll be prepared for that. I got to put them at 1, man. I got to. I think I misheard you there. I mean, Sandy's going to do what Sandy does. I mean, they're going to be a top echelon team, no matter how many guys they got to plug in and replace. Guys are going to come in ready. He's a hell of a coach, and that's a team that they're going to be up in the top 4. But I'm putting them at 2, man. I'm putting St. Cloud at 1. I'm putting Duluth at 2. I agree with you, except 1 and 2, guys. So whoever's list that was, I would just flip 1 and 2.
Well, here's the deal. If we put St. Cloud at 2 and then they finish 1, we look smarter than we are, Ben. So that's why that's the goal here.
But if I say on July 1 they're gonna be the best team, I look really smart.
Yeah, you do. We got to put the Vegas odds on that, I
think. We're Minnesota Wild fans over here, Nick. We don't talk about anything Vegas for a little while.
That's true.
Okay, but the one thing I think St. Cloud really has to take a lesson from actually is probably the Denver Pioneers, right? Going on, they win a Frozen Four a couple of years ago. I believe it was 2017, and then they had their first sub 500 season, not playing terrible last year, but you know what? Maybe expecting to have a little more success, didn't have the pod they're looking for. So again, how much should we talk about this? The start's got to be imperative, right? Speaking of Duluth as well, I think they did a really nice job of utilizing the transfer portal. They didn't grab a whole lot of guys, but the guys they grabbed are good hockey players. They've got Ryan Fanti, who's going to be there, and then Stay Skull, guys who are going to solidify that goaltending spot. They're a team that has given St. Cloud a run for their money. They played them 7 or 8 times last year, so who knows? It'll be good. But Ben, I got to ask you this trivia question going back to North Dakota, because we had this last week. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the show, but the Fighting Hawks lost 5 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a goaltender.
Who?
The Fighting Hawks, whoever they are. I don't know. Some team that, I don't know. They got some like small rinky-dink rink. I don't know, something like that. between these 8 out skaters, how many combined points did North Dakota lose out of that? How many combined points did those 8 players have? Just take a stab.
Clarify this. Combined career points.
Yeah. Career.
Oh, combined career points?
Yeah. 5 forwards, 3 defensemen.
Let's see how many of the guys I can get that are gone. So you got Kawaguchi's gone.
Yep.
1.
You got Adams. You got Pinto.
Yep.
You've got Mismash.
Yep.
You've got Kierstead.
Yep.
Who am I missing?
Playing in Sweden right now, his brother's coming in as a freshman.
Oh, man. I know this too. Give me a hint on another guy. How many is that? 5?
5.
Yeah.
Another Ottawa Senator.
Oh, Bernard Docker.
Yeah.
6. Yeah. Is Haynes still around or is he gone?
He's there.
He's there.
The ones you're missing: Josh Rieger, Gabe Bass, and Jackson Keene. So
I should have had Keene. He's my bud.
Yeah. In fact, I don't even have Bernard Docker's stats in here, so this might be a little low. But take a stab at combined career points here.
480.
Pretty close. 463. So I bet you it's actually probably above 480 if you throw Bernard Docker's stats in there.
He's up there.
What do I win?
It's almost like you know the podcast or the game of hockey. I don't know. You win another attendance here on the podcast. It's great.
All right, I appreciate that, man. I'm happy to chat with you guys, man. So I appreciate that. Book me for the start of the season, then.
Hey, the schedule's pretty tight, man. I don't know. We're just trying to make sure that
we'll have to call our secretary, see if we can fit you in.
No, I think we have to call Dell and the Geek Squad. I think that's really who we got to call here. Ben, you want to fill our listeners in on that story?
My computer was I will. I'm absolutely fine with it. So we were supposed to tape last Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't turned this computer on in a couple of weeks, honestly. So I got the one that I'm using now, and I have another one here in my desk. I have one of those raised desks, and this works real well when you can't see it. But anyways, so I hadn't turned it on in 2 weeks. And so I turned it on at, I don't know, it was like 8:15, I think, last Wednesday.
Sounds about right.
So I text you guys, and I'm like, uh-oh. And I think I texted you 2 or 3 pictures of nothing but my screen with the Dell on it, and you could see the thing spinning, and it lasted about 3 days.
My God.
It had like 10 updates. I wasn't doing any fishy stuff on it.
He wasn't mining Bitcoin. Nope, he wasn't doing that.
No, I just hadn't used it, and the updates were trash. So appreciate you guys and your talent group of sliding you're working with me to get me on the show, because we bumped it last night. We were going to tape, and I'm like, said to Nick, I'm like, man, we can't tape it on game 2 of the finals, man. Let's do this the next night. So I appreciate you guys.
It's funny because I told him too. No, I was like, how did I even overlook that? What are we doing? Like,
right.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Ben, but Wednesdays and Thursdays are the only 2 days that we don't have ice here in Minot. So that's kind of why those are the only 2 available days. So being
understood.
We all
got our priorities. I get it. It's all good, man. And shout out to Siski. We bumped him out of the way and let me take tonight. So I appreciate that. Bruce is a good man.
Yeah, we talked to Bruce. He said it actually worked a little bit better for him to be bumped in next week. Maybe he just doesn't want to be on the show because he knows you're picking St. Cloud #1. So,
well, you're going to have to take this clip and play it. Tell him, I picked St. Cloud, man. That'll
rile him up a little bit.
Rile everybody up that's not a St. Cloud fan. Let's be honest.
I was going to say, then it'll be awkward, and he'll be like, how many national championships does Duluth have again? And then,
that's easy. He'll just hold his rings up.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what these 3 are. But anyway.
Before we get to what you've been up to and the standings from last year from another league that you got you so eloquently call, this might be a great time, Nick, to finally reveal this to our listeners. Nick Maxon and I are going to meet for the first time in a week next Thursday to do some
first
filming.
time. In a week we're going to be meeting for the first time
since March 6th of 2020. Not that I know. Or
in Duluth.
In Duluth, that's correct.
I listen.
Mm-hmm. In Duluth,
yes. But
I gave him the walking papers so straining your ends, apparently.
The tether's coming off.
The tether's coming off.
Nice.
Oh gosh.
Wangs. Anyway, so here's the deal. For Huskies fans, we're gonna see how the clips come out, but nonetheless, Nick Maxton and I are gonna go mano a mano, 1-versus-1 at the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center. Ben Holden, speaking of predictions, hot take. I think we're gonna do 1-on-1, first 1 to 5, because we have a goaltender. Who wins the matchup in this one, Ben?
Oh man, we're gonna put him on the spot like that. Holy!
I'm gonna give you what I always tell people when I broadcast any game, any sport. I just want a close, competitive, and I don't care if it's dirty or not, but a close, competitive game. I was doing a soccer game the other night in Flint, and it was like a hockey game, just for the record. Man, I can't pick that.
Well, we'll give you a hint. Here's my prediction. I'll chime in. He's picking on a 1-on-1, a guy, someone that's got a decade plus on him, so he can look good. That's my prediction.
Now you're backing away from it. The entire diatribe I've been getting for the last 3 months is that you were going to walk all over me. So,
but isn't Noah like 6'4"?
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'4".
I've stood next to Nick, so I know he isn't 6'4".
No,
not that size is everything.
What are you, 5'9"? Is that right?
Depends on which convenience store I'm leaving.
How much do you weigh?
Why are you asking me these questions?
I need to know.
You need to know.
How much do you think I weigh? Okay, we'll go this way then. How much do I weigh?
You're a pretty hefty guy. So I mean,
thanks.
Do you have to go on like, you know what? Okay, so he doesn't have to step on the scale. He just goes on the truck weight scale. Let's see here. So is it 18,000 gross weight, or is that just the single axle?
It's actually a dual.
It's a tandem. Got it. No, you're what, 220?
224. Yeah.
Yeah, I even got the under. So there you go.
So what are you, 140 soaking wet? Let me guess. You got to be 162.
I'm about 170.
Okay. All right.
So
are we
that's
doing
okay.
Are we doing contact? I'm only going half gear. So here's the real question. Are we hitting each other? I'll hit you. I
need to know this before I can
have fun hitting me. I'll say that much.
Oh, so there is contact. We're doing contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, but okay. So when you contact, we're not doing a Kucherov slash. We're not doing any of that stuff, right?
No, I'm just going to put you up in the 5th row and then go.
Because we don't have a fine system. We don't have a collective bargaining agreement. So. But yeah, no, absolutely no. I'll reverse hit you. It'll be fine.
Ben, maybe you just need to drive down to the Herb and broadcast it for us. That's what we're missing here.
I wish I lived up there, man. I would. I'd come out and watch that. I'd shoot the video and call it at the same time, man.
We are looking for extra cameraman. If anyone knows anyone in the St. Cloud area who can skate and run a tight shot while they're skating, much appreciated.
If I was going to be a camera guy or camera person, I'd want to be that person in the Stanley Cup Finals or the Frozen Four when they let them go out, because that's cool.
The ISO cam. Yeah, the ISO. Yeah.
Olympics, the All-Star games, those guys are like holding the camera like that and, following behind them. That'd be a great gig as a camera.
Yeah, except for the fact that whenever everybody's dropping F-bombs when they're celebrating, you'd be dropping them too just to get your licks in behind the camera, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's
oh, dude. That's yeah. Whether you're behind the camera, you're in between the benches, you're the linesman, it's all hockey.
Yeah. Speaking of being in the booth, though, first of all, I thought you did a fantastic job at your regional in Colorado, and it was a fantastic regional. How about the fact too that you got to call the second to last NCAA game with a WCHA team ever in history? That's pretty cool, and a riveting game where 5 minutes before the end of the third period, we thought they were going to be done in Mankato. How was that regional call in those games and seeing Minnesota kind of get walked in the final there?
It was, number one, it was just great to be back in it. I hadn't done a regional since 15. And I'd done regionals every year prior to that since 07. So it was awesome to be back and be a part of it. And to be with Fred was great. As you guys know, Freddie and his wife and their family's gone through a ton. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that his son, Jesse, has been out of the hospital for a little over a week. He had a heart transplant. They thought that he was going, at one point, they thought he was going to need kidney and heart transplant.
Oof, man.
And Fred and I talked quite a bit. We're actually working on a project we may be doing for, one of those networks that I work for. And I'll leave it at that. But and so he's out of the hospital. He's in a wheelchair. He's literally got to learn to walk again. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Jess and the family there. So, but it was great to be with Freddie. And, I mentioned earlier, had Omaha. I was, in thinking back to that game, it was a play. I think it was a Bate and Ward it was late in the first period. And LaFontaine was out of the net. He got out of position. He wanders a lot. That's one thing I noticed about him. He's darn good, but he wanders. And he wandered on that play. I think Minnesota probably still would have won that game, but I think it would have changed the dynamic of that game had Omaha scored late in that period and, got on the board. But it was awesome. It was just good to be a part of it. And in our sport, it's a huge deal to be in the tournament, and it's a huge deal to broadcast it. And it means a hell of a lot to me. So Mike Hastings, great guy. I got to know him through my buddy Quinny. Former New York Rangers head coach, but he'll coach again. And, really like Mike and really liked his team. And, the story with the Sandelin family was terrific, what they went through. And we all know what they went through in Fargo, winning that game. And, then Ryan scores. And that was justice poetically. It was pretty cool. And, stuff like that matters to me. I care. We all know how much work goes into, number one, raising a kid, and you get him to Division I college hockey player. And it's just, whether he makes it or not, it's awesome. It was a hell of a story, and it was pretty cool. And, and then, Minnesota State, making it out for the dub and looked like they were a mess, and Hasty got them back together, and they played a tough game. They're a hard, heavy team, and, they've got some skill, but they don't have a ton of it. They work hard and outwork you. And, I said to somebody social media earlier today, in reference to Blake Coleman and that goal he scored in game 2, they just out effort you. They out effort you. They just outwork you. And that's what they did. And they got on Minnesota early in that game. And, it was cool to send a team that had never been there. Heck, I've got 2 teams in that state, St. Cloud and Minnesota State, that I was fortunate enough to call their first trips to go to the Frozen Four. So, it means a lot to me, and I know it means a hell of a lot to their programs and their fans.
And the fact that the Sandelin son and father actually could have ended up against each other in a national championship game that could have been honestly insane. But speaking of not only another network, but another league division, if you will, Wisconsin taking the cake in this one, followed by the University of Minnesota, Notre Dame kind of rounding out the top 3 that punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament last year. Michigan, not that you have any personal affiliation for that group there, but Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan State rounding out the standings in the Big Ten last year. Ben, can you tell the folks what you're going to be up to this year and your predictions for that particular league of sorts?
Well, I'll be doing hockey for Big Ten Network and be a part of the conference. And, I have a lot of lines in the water, so I don't want to jinx anything, but, a lot of people I'm talking with, and they're pretty much all hockey related. In this room, like I mentioned earlier, I've kind of moved out. I had my old set was in my living room, and it was like that for a long time. And so my girlfriend and I decided, all right, and I painted the whole place. I'm gonna be putting an audio booth in this bedroom, my den now, and I'm gonna be doing a lot of voice work. I'm gonna branch out, get into voiceovers. I got a friend that's very successful, and she's kind of gonna show me the ropes in terms of set up things like that. So I'm excited to do that. I don't think I'll be doing any football, which is going to be strange. I'll be honest with you guys. For the last 9 years, I've been at Army, and if I wasn't at Army, I was doing a college football game. Thought that might happen at Big Ten, but right now it's kind of a situation where I'm next man up, and I get it. I was on that other side for the last decade, where I had the contract, and I was in a small group of people that were picked to do college football, and it's a big deal. But really where all my focus is on hockey and the other project I mentioned. And I'm just itching for the season to get going. We still got a ways to go, but I don't want to wish summer away. But I'm excited for that, and we'll see what happens with these other ventures that I'm keeping zipped up for now to see what the outcome is. And certainly you guys will know if they come through. So, and I hope they do. So. Yeah.
NCHC shop. Best voiceover ever, baby.
Look, they got to start paying me for that now.
Seriously.
Kidding aside.
Hey, all I'm telling you is we're not going to pay you for using your goal call in our intro. So
That sounds great in there. Leave it.
It does.
I'm kidding, man. No, I'll put it this way. I'm not doing any more unless I'm paid.
Right.
now that I'm going to be doing a venture, don't think that may not happen. So all kidding aside. So I'm not going to lie to you, man. It was kind of cool. The little bit I watched last season, hearing my voice still on CBS during the hockey games. So, that was cool.
Ben, you've had the privilege in the NCHC conference to really see some of the best college hockey teams to be, you could call it roster assembled per se, but in the Big Ten this upcoming year, there's a Michigan squad. Let's just put their name right out there. That honestly looking right, Michigan who? Big Blue? I have no idea. But from what the names that are coming in, they had a really good season last year, and now with some incoming freshmen that are, part of the U.S. development program. They're going to be some projected to be in the top 15 in this year's draft in terms of the first round. This Michigan squad for you could be one to watch compared to some of the teams we've seen in the NCAA. Tell us about some of the names that are coming into this Michigan squad, and they might be, I would think, first overall coming into the preseason rankings just by the namesake of who they have coming in.
Yeah, I would say too. That's a safe bet. So they were my other team aside from St. Cloud that's in the top 5. You're going to have potentially 4 guys that get drafted in the top 10. And I'm counting little Hughes, the youngest Hughes coming in. And I'm sure you guys have seen it. And Owen Powers made no bones about it.
He's coming back.
He's coming back.
Which is great. It's great for him, guys, and it's great for their team, and it's great for the sport. The kid's probably going to go first. I saw a thing today. I was doing a little reading before we chatted, and he hasn't even talked to Buffalo.
Correct, he has.
So there's no guarantee that Buffalo is going to take him. But I mean, him and Beniers and Kent Johnson and the younger Hughes and the guys that are coming in. I mean, this team in Michigan's had some of the most high octane teams I've ever seen in the sport. I think back to when they had Hensick and Max Pacioretty was there and Jack Johnson and Matt Hunwick. And when Jack Johnson was on the ice, he didn't play a whole lot of defense. And I don't mean that as a knock. He was just always in the play. It was unbelievable to watch him play in college. And Hunwick was similar, but not as much. But I think this Michigan team's got a real shot to be one of the best teams that they've ever had. And they've had some darn good ones in terms of skill. And to me, it's still a shame that they didn't play in the tournament, but it is what it is. But I would have loved to have seen them get a shot to play, not just because I'm from here and I live 15 minutes from the campus and I'm a Spartan, number one, and I'm sure they'll appreciate that. But, but I know so many people at both schools, it doesn't matter to me, but all kidding aside, they've got a goalie in Portillo. He's a massive dude. He's 6'6", kid out of Sweden. They lost Cam York and they lost some other guys, but they're a lot like North Dakota. And I think, within time, maybe Brett Larson can be saying this about St. Cloud. They just reload, man. And that's a team that they're going to have to deal with at some point is this Michigan team, I believe. I think they're going to be trouble for a lot of teams. So, I think the Big Ten as a whole is going to be fun. Wisconsin's going to be a different team. Obviously without Caulfield and Weisbach's gone, Pelton Bice. Those guys were, as good as Caulfield is and as good as he was, this past year, those guys are pretty darn important guys for their team. So Minnesota, they've got some losses. I'm glad to see my buddy Crookshanks coming in to play for them. And it's a good spot for Grant. He's a great young guy. And, a funny thing, his mom saw that I was, you guys know his mom's Bonnie Blair. And so I met her a couple times. And just should talk your ear off. Just the kindest woman, just a great soul, great human being. She only won 5 gold medals, right? And so she thought, yeah, so she thought that I was dabbling. I'm selling a little memorabilia here and there, just trying to move a few things, and keeps me busy and connected with people. So she sends me a message and she says, "Hey, I'm going to send you some things. Send me your, and she wouldn't believe what she sent me. And most of it, I don't want to sell because and she's like, go ahead, flip it, make some money on it. But like, she won 5 gold medals. Like, I just thought that was real.
And Ben's got them all in his.
Yeah, no, she didn't send me those, man. No, but it just, anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but
Ben, I really wanted to ask to touch on a point about Owen Power, and I thought it was an interesting discussion that when you talk about especially the Big Ten schools, right? Your Michigan's and Minnesota's been kind of hampered by this, and it's a good problem to have because it means you have good talent coming in. But do you think that there should be a rule that, puts college hockey players to say you got to play at least 2 years at the school that you were, asked to play at? I know some guys are ready to make the jump, but do you feel like, it's a great thing that he's staying there at Michigan? Owen Power is to be committed there. But do you feel like players should have to stay for maybe at least half of their collegiate career at the team that picked them up?
Yeah, it's a good point. I see the side of it. They're making a commitment to you and, you made a commitment. Like, I understand that. Sometimes they get broken. It's just part of life, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, I like, what, the one and done basically, or not even that. You have to be, in football, you have to be 3 years removed from high school before you can enter the draft. Obviously, it's a lot different in our sport, because we got guys coming in at freshmen at 20 years old. So, right. That's a moot point. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like it would help the game. It would help teams, certainly, Noah. I think, with that. I think for Power, though, honestly, and I've read a lot about him, and you guys probably have too. He didn't get to experience Michigan like Michigan is. Like take Sanderson at North Dakota, for example. He hasn't experienced North Dakota like North Dakota is, and we all know what that is. Mm-hmm. And for my money, the two best environments in college hockey, in no particular order, are North Dakota and Michigan.
Yost is just amazing.
There's nothing close.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yost is old school and North Dakota is the new school, but they're both classic in their own way. So my point is this: I think he wants to experience that. He wants to experience, like, think of these freshmen. They had to go through what we all did. That was their first year of college. I mean, he owes it to himself. He owes it to himself to go into Michigan and to play Michigan State or Minnesota or whoever it is, Notre Dame, in that building, because I've done dozens of games with those teams over the years, and they're as far from anything like it when those teams come in and play at Yost. I mean, it is absolutely, as the kids say, banging. You can't hear yourself. You can't think straight. The booth, you're calling the game and you're like this in the booth because the whole place is moving. Like it's that kind of, hair stands up on the back of your neck. I think it's good that he's doing that. I think it's good for that part, but I think he needs to do it for his game as well. Yeah, he's a projected number 1 pick, and everyone's got flaws. And I don't know exactly what his flaws are. I don't claim to be an expert in that and scouting. I mean, I know what I see, and what I see is a guy that reminds me of like a Victor Hedman, like that kind of guy. Physically, what he can do, the building block he can be for a franchise. That's what I mean by that. You guys know that. So, I think it's great that he wants to play. And, as far as a rule, I think it'd be a tough thing to do. I think it'd be good, though, Noah. I think it'd be good to see guys have to stay a couple years. I know the coaches would like it, but, it's just the way it is. And, but I definitely think it would be a benefit to the sport of college hockey for sure.
I'll jump on that, Ben. I 100% agree with you. It could change the landscape really of what college hockey could be. Now, the problem is you just had, I could call the sponsorship rights for athletes. So they're getting these opportunities to be their own brand, to be able to make money. Maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't. But again, to tell an athlete what they can do with even with a commitment or a signed, and there's that gentleman's sort of handshake where it's, I'm making a commitment to you as the athlete, you're making one of me as the school. But at the end of it, there still has to be freedom there too. I just don't know how you would logistically uphold the rule. I think there would be times where there's going to be loopholes exposed for that, whether it be medical or whether it be something else, or I just think it would create more of a mess. But to your point, Noah, if it were to happen, I think it'd be very positive. I just don't know if now was, especially the timing of everything, would be the right way to do it. But it certainly would, if it happened in the fantasy world, it would be, I think, great for the game. Because again, the one and dones, again, like Ben said, Owen could have been a one and done. COVID, I think, probably plays part of it. Again, you need to develop your game a little bit more. And at the end of the day, every athlete's going to make the decisions for what's best for not only their athletic career, but just their personal goals and vendettas too. So you have that to take into account too. So it'd be tough, but it would be positive if they did it.
Yeah, well, and there's so many guys that I think the biggest thing too is how many guys do we see that are one and dones, or even two and dones, if you will, that try to make that jump, that think they're ready and they're physically or maturity wise just aren't ready. I mean, sure, you have your exceptions to the rule. You have your Cale Makars that they make the jump. They're great hockey players. Your Jack Eichels, and they're studs, and that's what they do. But I guess my kind of thought is too. One, I like the piece that you mentioned, Ben, about having it be a commitment, right? You said to a school that, maybe some of them have been recruiting you since you were 15, 16, 17 years old. They took a chance on you. They gave you a roster spot. They gave a slot to you that they could have given to somebody else, uphold that, play for your school a little bit, and develop more as a person, as a game. And I guess for me personally, even though I'm going on like year 28 of college, I feel like college is like the best time of your life. You know what I mean? Being with everybody, the working world, there's benefits to working. I'm sure there's benefits to playing in the show, obviously, but
just a few.
Yeah. But with that being said, your college years are pretty carefree, especially when you're playing hockey, I would say,
Yeah. I mean, two things, like you guys have probably heard the old saying from Red Berenson, like, if you're ready, I'll drive you to the airport. Right.
Yeah.
And that stemmed from when Red played in the NCAA tournament and they drove him to Montreal. Like, that's some old school stuff, man. And he always said that to players. If you're ready, I'll drive you to the airport. You think you're ready, I'll take you. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you you're probably not. Right. And the other part of that is what you mentioned, Owen, like Owen. I got Owen Power on my mind. Noah.
Well, we play the same way, Ben. So
I've heard that, Nick. You better look out, brother.
Yeah, I'm not that worried.
He doesn't look worried, honestly.
I'm not worried.
Any worry in his face. So in the time, 13, 14 years ago when TJ Hensick, who I still say, I golfed yesterday with TJ Likens. I'll name drop. He's an official in the CCHA. We've been friends a long time. He was a linesman in the CCHA before the split. He did lines in the NCHC. We're buds. We like to golf. We talked a lot of hockey. And I just, out of the blue, we were talking about ex-Michigan guys. And I said, for my money, TJ Hensick, in all the years, and I started calling games in 2004, and for my money, and I can say that now and not worry about it because now the athletes can get paid, right? So I don't have to this is being recorded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as we know.
Zoom likes to let us know that very eloquently. So
that's odd. You got to get that as a drop, man. I'm telling you. All kidding aside, I said to him that Hensick, for my money, is the most electrifying guy I've seen. And I've seen a lot of guys. But what I mean by electrifying, and I'm going to clarify, is like the ability to step on the gas on a moment's notice. And for example, I was doing a Michigan State game at Yost one year. He took it. So we're looking at the ice this way. He's in the left circle, near side, bottom of the circle. He dangled all 5 Michigan State guys on his way to the ice or way to the net to score up the right wing. That's what I mean by electrifying. Like, Cole Caulfield, you see him shoot the puck. It's different. It's just different. And he's one example. But Hensick always said to me that I'm going to play 4 years. And he was a 3rd round pick. So it wasn't like he was a late round pick. And had he played any defense, and I love TJ, I do. But that's why he never stuck in the NHL. He wouldn't commit to the other side of the puck. But he always said, why would I leave early? I only get to do this once in my life, and it's going to be the best 4 years of my life. So, some guys do, some don't. You know, you guys both make great points, and I think we do agree on that whole thing about, you know, having some kind of limit on it. But, you know, I just think it's better for the game. It builds continuity. It builds better teams. It builds, you know, you can maybe build a dynasty. I mean, you know, look at what Duluth did, and then look at Minnesota and Denver, you know, with the back-to-backs, and they had guys committed, guys stayed. And I'm sure there were guys, I couldn't tell you right now without looking at rosters, but I'm sure there were guys on every one of those teams that could have went and signed. And there were some that came back to play for that experience. And I think probably in part of it too was it was part of their commitment. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Nick, I've only got one more question here for Ben. Ben, you've been talking to Dave Starman lately. You've been keeping up with the Starman. Any new Starman? Like, will he stay in a hotel with you now that you know that you think he's a chatterbox on the road, or what?
See, he books his own travel, man.
He's got his own agency.
He books his own hotel. No, what's that?
He's got his own agency.
Him.
It's called the Long Island Express. Yeah.
No, we just we just talked a couple weeks ago, man. So yeah, we stay in touch, you know, and you know, look, man, I'll get all sappy on you here. We're always going to be connected, and you know, I'm proud of that. You know, I'm proud of our relationship, proud of the three of ours relationship, and you know, I haven't talked to Shireen since probably back during hockey season, but yeah, Dave and I usually talk once a month or something like that. So. Not much to report, you know.
Did he ever tell you that he clarified the story for all of us Huskies fans about how the guy who runs the Twitter page for Hockey East tweeted that Massachusetts was the state of hockey, and we all got in an uproar about it, thinking it was serious?
That one. Wait, what did he do?
Yeah, well, after UMass won, he tweeted that Hockey East, that Massachusetts was the state of hockey.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I know, but so we all thought it was serious, and Dave came in and told us all to cool the jets and was like, yeah, no, he was just messing around with everybody.
He's always getting grief, man, and it's not his fault.
No.
He just always gets grief, you know, but look, man, you can play this for him. You have him on it. Massachusetts is not the state of hockey. It's Minnesota, and then it's Michigan. And I live in Michigan. Hands down. Like, you guys wouldn't believe how many people I think it was our Sunday. It was our regional final game. And Fred and I got on the topic of high school hockey. And I always know my audience. You guys know that. But I didn't need to be doing two Minnesota schools in a game to say this. And my phone blew up. I got blown up on Twitter in a good way. I was like, it's not even close. Minnesota's high school. It's not even close.
And
it's not even remotely close.
And you know what, Ben? It's not even close from Michigan to the next state, which is probably Massachusetts. Like, those two are in their own first and second place tiers all by themselves. They really are.
Yes. 100% agree. So, but here's the thing. Now, did he tell you that his son goes to UMass?
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys know. So yeah. I understand, but no, they're not the state of hockey.
You know, funny thing about UMass, Ben. I wear, you know, of course, the St. Cloud State shells and the practice jersey and stuff that I have. And I was out on the ice the other day, and we had a kid come out on the ice here in Minot, North Dakota, was wearing all UMass gear. UMass
he wasn't.
UMass pants. Kid you not, it was Tuesday night. He came out. I looked at him. I said, we're not talking about it. He goes, okay. And then he skated right away and stuff. He's not a hockey player. He's a lacrosse player, but he kind of picked it up and stuff. Yeah. But he knew, and it was just like, yeah, we're not talking about it. Not at all.
Oh, you must. I mean, how many your social media department probably had a lot going on to deal with that comment after he made that, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have our backup. We have Caleb Peabody waiting in the wings, ready to pounce at any moment.
He does.
He's the fixer.
Oh yeah.
He's a fixer.
He's the Patrick Maroon of your organization.
How about that guy? The fact that he could be the first player to win 3 cups in a row like that. Isn't that insane? Patrick Maroon, man.
Since the Islanders, yeah. You know, yeah, I mean, he's just right place, right time, man. I mean, you know, he was in Edmonton for a while. I think, was he in Anaheim too, I think?
Yes, Anaheim.
Yeah, you know, and so he's bounced around and
talk about one of the most iconic goals ever scored, though, in a Stanley Cup playoff, though. Double overtime, Game 7, St. Louis over Dallas to push him to that next round in the conference final.
Sure. Yeah. Not as dramatic as Coleman's, though, man.
No.
And I know Blake, man, but I just, that was unbelievable, man.
Is he, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is maybe just me thinking I remember and don't, is Blake Coleman, is he a Miami guy? Is that where
He's a
played?
Miami guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys will remember this. So I think it was 15, maybe. No, it was 14.
14, I think. Yeah.
A frozen face-off. He scores a hat trick. He scores 3 different types of goals. One, he bats down out of midair. The other one was a nice wrister, and the other one I think was a tip, a redirect. He takes a 5. He gets ejected. And were you guys ever at Target Center with the first few years of the face-off?
I was never. No, I watched it.
Yeah.
Okay,
same.
so
Yep.
there was, and Andy Murray was classic with this thing, man. I don't want to get him in trouble, but it was a little rickety getting up this stage, man. It was like, and guys had to walk up it with skate guards on, and it was like metal staging, and it was probably 5-6 steps up, and it was a little shaky. So that's where the visit team came out and went on the ice. So Coleman, it was great TV. Carlos Demolina, my buddy, it's produced that package for years. Excuse me, was all over it, and he was pacing around because he got tossed. And Miami ended up winning that year. And it was pretty cool. But no, Blake's a great dude, man. And, you know, last year I kind of broke our start. Last year I did a show with him when I was doing a bunch of podcasts before they went in the bubble. And we texted and joked. And I said, hey, I got to get you next year. But apparently he doesn't need me. Right. He's fine without me, man. Now I'm going to have to get him on when they win the cup again, because I think they are winning the cup. Montreal doesn't win tomorrow. It's a sweep. Montreal wins. I think it's over in 5. I just do. I think Tampa's that much better. I really want to see Montreal win it, guys, because if my team's not in it, I'm rooting for the Canadian teams. That's just me. And, you know, I can't believe it's been 28 years. I mean, the U.S. is, you know, we've had all those years with cups, and, you know, 1993, man, last time the Canadians won it. So,
crazy to think that last time the Canadians won was the end of the first year in franchise history for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They started in September of 92. So
yeah, that's a great point, man. And then I didn't know this one either, that Vasilevsky's won. He's 10 for his last 10 against Montreal.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well,
So
it's no secret that the Habs need all 3 at home. I mean, you know,
No secret at all.
I mean, I really thought, guys, in game 2 that, you know, they were going to get a 1-goal win. They outshot them 2-1. I mean, they outplayed them. Tampa was a mess in the second period. Yeah. But again, that Coleman goal, the read by Palat, the bad dump by Edmondson. I mean, those guys, they get it done, man. And that's, they played their game to a T. They couldn't finish it. They made 2 costly mistakes. I mean, I don't even think you really count the Coleman. I wouldn't consider the Coleman goal a mistake. I mean, Dan-O did everything he could do on that thing. Coleman just made one hell of a play.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't blame anybody on that. And it's not like Dan-O quit. I mean, his stick was right there with him. It probably went off his stick as well.
He was tackling the guy.
Yeah, I mean, and that dude, you know, we know what he did to all these other guys that they faced, and you know, and Matthews and the laundry list of guys they beat in the other playoff series. So, yeah, I think they got to win the next game, and if they don't, it's over in 4, and otherwise it goes 5.
I got one last one for you, Ben, and it's a little bit of predicting, and I love playing the futures game with you. Seattle comes into the fold here in, well, essentially 24 days, if I recall correctly, because the protected list come out the 17th. I think the draft is the 21st for the expansion draft, and then we have free agency coming about. But I think the question I want to know is, you know, a lot of teams are capped toward the ceiling. They're going to probably be looking towards Seattle, maybe to help them out with it. I think there's plenty of talent available for Seattle to pick. How competitive is the Kraken going to be in the first year of existence here as they enter the NHL?
Well, they got a pretty high standard, as we know.
They do.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I've seen, you know, Stetcher's name from, you know, North Dakota and the conference thrown around. You know, is Hack going to go after a bunch of North Dakota guys? I don't think he will. I think he'll have some. You know, let's be honest. I mean, you know what you're getting, and I don't know, Nick. I don't think they're going to have the success Vegas had. I'll put it that way. I just don't see another expansion team replicating that. I mean, that was unbelievable. And yeah, a lot of work went into it. I don't want to discredit anybody. I mean, but the buy-in of those players, and I think that's a big thing. Whoever Ron Francis and Dave Hackstall put together and the scouting staff, they got to buy in, man. They got to feel like a bunch of misfits because that's what Vegas did, right? I mean, they were all guys that nobody wanted, basically.
I think you got teams that are going to be a lot smarter with it this time around too. I think it's the only time, if I'm not mistaken, that only one team has come into the National Hockey League like by themselves, not with a group like Minnesota, Columbus, those groups all came together.
Tampa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've got, I think teams are going to be smarter this time around knowing, how the first round went. I mean, Florida was absolutely gutted with two of their best players that are still there. So
I know it's going to be weird. And if I'm Seattle, I've seen a couple of different, projections of how Seattle will do it. I kind of think how Seattle should do it because you can't replicate what Vegas did under the table just because again of the teams will be looking for that. But if I'm Seattle, I'm going to spend at the cap floor and that's it in the expansion draft. And I think what you do is you end up having 30-40 million in cap space. That's where your deal is going to be had. Is you're going to have the cap space to try to say, hey, yeah, we'll take that guy off your roster, but it's going to cost you a first or a second round pick. I think it's going to be a different way that they build their team. Yeah. And I agree. I don't think they're going to have the instant success that say Vegas had, because I think, as you mentioned, Noah, there's going to be teams approaching a little bit differently. On top of it is, again, being having a flat cap, some teams may be forced to make deals because they need flexibility in their cap to add or trade. So they might be forced to do it, but I think they're going to be, as you mentioned, smarter about it and trying to keep value as much as they can with also trying to add some flexibility. It's going to be tough. I'm
going to throw one out at you guys. Do you either one of you guys think that Duncan Keith ends up there?
I think there's a high chance. Yeah, I do. I actually was actually out in Pittsburgh when I was out there. I met a really nice hockey couple that actually they're Chicago Blackhawks fans that you can actually get into a room and talk with. And I want to have drop the fisticuffs. They're actually they actually travel to every Frozen Four. They've been doing it for about, I think they said 13 years. Cool. And we text here and there, and actually we're talking about where the Chicago Blackhawks are as a team. And I think, as great as Duncan Keith has been, I think it is time that he gets moved. I think for Chicago, they've pretty much traded away every Stanley Cup winning defenseman they've had. Keith, to me, has lost a step. And I think for them to really fully embrace a rebuild on their back, and I think Keith has got to be a piece that gets moved. And it's going to be tough, but I do think it's the right time for him to go. I really do. And it's no disrespect to Duncan. He's had a hell of a career, but I think for Chicago to really take the next step forward, he's got to be a piece that's got to get moved.
Yeah. I mean, it came out yesterday, I'm sure you guys saw it. And, obviously Vancouver's a team, but is Vancouver, are they close to make a run? Maybe, but I don't know. I thought about that yesterday when I saw the story. And it's like, what? I wonder if he ends up going there and, kind of, goes not back home, but close back to home. He's a BC guy, and maybe kind of show some guys the way for, I would think, a year, maybe two, who knows? The guy's he looks like Hercules. I mean, the guy's in unbelievable shape. I remember him at Michigan State, man. He looked like he was 15 years old when I met him, when I was working there, when I was reporting. And but the college thing wasn't his thing. And he failed, but man, he's had a hell of a career. I think it'd be cool to see him there. I really do, to go back, kind of like I said, back to home. I think it'd be a cool fit.
Well, you talk about young guys. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is about to get a new deal. He still looks like he's 15 and he's like 30. But when it's funny, Duncan Keith is an interesting case study because he's a guy that when you watch him skate, he's not a smooth skater. He's a very choppy skater the way he plays, but he reminds me, he's got a little bit of Nicholas Lidstrom in him where mentally he plays the game so well. He anticipates, very strong when he's not slashing people in the face, mind you. But
yikes, Charlie Coyle, yikes.
Hashtag Jeff Carter and Charlie Coyle. But nonetheless, I mean, the guy's got 3 cups. I mean, what more can you say, you know?
And he could be a really good veteran building block, as you mentioned, Ben, into a new team that could have a lot of young faces to it. And again, I think it actually is a move that benefits both squads. I do. I think it helps Chicago turn a page that I think they've been half-heartedly turning for the better part of the last couple of seasons. And again, you get to have a leadership role, I still think, with Seattle, and you get to be part of something that, hey, who knows? I mean, they still could be fun to watch. They still could be a team, depending on who they get, that could be, a contender for a playoff position. But hey, as you mentioned, could be close to home. I don't think it goes to Vancouver. I don't think Vancouver, as much as Jim Benning has made some really ridiculous moves as a GM, I don't think he would entertain that. I just think he'd be too expensive right now. And he's not the type of defenseman they need right now, in my opinion.
Oh, come on. That Louis Erickson contract turned out perfect.
Exactly. Right. So
Quinn Hughes isn't going to listen to him. He's a Michigan State guy, man. Quinn's
exactly. Yeah. It's not going to happen. So I don't know. So yeah, it'd be fun. I think it'd be a good move, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I think for his age, Ben, I think it'd be a situation where I think he would have to agree to go. I think that would be where Ran Francis calls the Chicago front office and says, we want you. Would you be willing to come over?
Yeah, I mean, and if you're Seattle, I mean, if that goes that way, like you guys said, I mean, the guy's won multiple cups. I mean, he's one of the best to do it in the last 10, 15 years. That's going to put butts in the seats. They're going to have butts in the seats anyway, but that's something you want to have. You want to have some guys that come in when you're starting a new organization that, although Vegas didn't really have that per se, they just had a bunch of misfits. And that's kind of what, you're going to be able to, I guess, look at, and the guys that come in. Basically, no one wanted them. So,
right.
Not that they're misfits. That's the wrong word for it. It's guys that they didn't believe in and they let them go. So,
and you got to give Vegas credit for really putting on the Marc-Andre Fleury train, because he's kind of been the face of that franchise for 4 years. And he's a goaltender, right? So, I mean, whether it's defenseman, forward, as long as, again, NHL could do better at marketing. I think Vegas has done a fantastic job of marketing their product down in that area. And for hockey fans, I've never said it before, if you go to watch a hockey game, you got to go to Vegas. It's just beyond an experience that's just beyond so much
Vegas,
fun.
Baby.
Yes. But I think Seattle, his name recognition would be able to put butts in the seats, and also, again, try to anchor down. I think will be, there's some really good blue line talent that could be out there for acquisition. So who knows? It could be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Ben, as we wrap up the show here, the final thing is you've been doing some rugby. You've been doing all sorts of a plethora of sports. What's next for you here for the rest of the summer before you hit some Big Ten hockey that you can reveal? Maybe just personally about what you're up to, or more Tim Hortons, more.
Yeah, excuse me. Well, rugby's done for me, so that was pretty cool. I ended up doing 9 matches. It was like learning a foreign language. It really was. And, great group of people. They're a lot like hockey people. They're friendly. They're helpful. They care. They're passionate. They love their sport. I worked with, I think I worked with 3 former guys that played for USA. They're called the Eagles. One was from New Zealand. One's from Sacramento. The other guy's from Australia. I mean, it's just, the sport's weird that way. Excuse me, where you can be from another country, but if you're here long enough, you can play for America. But it was neat. It was a cool experience. I learned a lot. I got better at the sport. I'd only done 1 match prior to that, and that was in 2019. And so that's done. And then I've been working with the Flint City Bucks, not to be confused with the Flint Tropics. Jackie Moon's not on the team.
I was just going to ask.
A lot of my buddies texted me when they saw that on social media. No, so what that is it's basically college all-star type players, and it's a development league for MLS and for leagues overseas for guys that want to play pro. And the group that I work with, the Bucks, they're by far and away the most successful team in the country. They've had a player go in the MLS player draft that they have after the current draft, the current college guys. Every year, they're the only team in around the world that's done that for like the last 20 some years. So it's a good group of people. It's run by a hockey guy. That's how I got involved. Their president, and he reached out and through another friend in hockey, which was Dave, actually. And so, it's fun. I do those things and just keep busy and keep fresh and playing golf and spending time with my gal and my son when I can. So not much, just trying to keep active and keep busy. And, I all the years I was at CBS, I didn't work at all in the summer. So, that's been different. Not knowing what's coming is a little bit different too. But, again, I'm going to start doing the stuff with the voiceover side of things and broadcast. And I want to do as many things in sports with that as I can. So I'll spend a couple grand, get a, nice mic and a stand and pad the room a little bit. And, I'll start doing that in the next week or two. So, yeah, I do want to say to you guys, thanks. It's good to reconnect. And I'm curious, is there any update on young Easton Brodzinski? How's he doing?
From what the last that we knew, he was recovering well and should be on track from what I know to be ready for training camp. But again, that was a little while back. So, but at the end of it, I think, especially with the way medical stuff has advanced, you can take a broken leg and what used to be, 8-9 month recovery time. And now it's like half of that. It's like 5 or 6. It's ridiculous. So
medicine's overrated.
A little bit. So I think honestly, he'll be
that's in the medical field.
He'll be good to go. I really do feel that way.
And he'll be in a Huskies uniform. That's the most important thing.
You guys are going to be, I'm telling you, you guys aren't second. You're going to win that conference.
I
hope you're right.
Pulling it right now on July 1.
Hashtag isn't October yet for both the NCHC, the Big Ten, as well as here for St. Cloud State. Ben Holden, again, thank you so very much for joining us. Always happy to have you, buddy. We'll definitely reconnect. We should actually get you on before the college hockey season starts to kind of catch up and preview what I think is going to be a really exciting season, especially with some fans are back. And that's, I think, is the biggest thing is for wherever college hockey team that all of our listeners watch, whether it's St. Cloud, Michigan, whoever else, it's going to be a great time to go back to those rinks, pack them, buy a ticket, go watch your teams. And it's going to be a packed, fun atmosphere wherever you go. So guys, again, thanks for joining us for episode 67 and we'll see you guys next week.
See you, boys.
Thanks, Ben. And once again, Nick, always a pleasure to talk to our boy Benny. Love to see what he's going to be up to. Of course, we got to hear off the air some of the other things that are potentially in the works for him. And if you're a hockey fan, you should be excited. Let's just put it that way. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, no, that's just it. I think, obviously we hope for the best because, a lot of those things are still in the works. And, that would be, it will be Ben's, turn to announce those. It looks promising. And the one thing that I think is confidence that he will be around college hockey, in some sense. He's made that, with his comments tonight on this episode, but could be more. And he's a guy that I think not only just college, I think the game of hockey absolutely not only needs but deserves because he's just that guy that bleeds the sport. I said that in the introduction, but you don't get a lot of guys that emulate the love for the sport like he does. And the more you can have him around the game, the better off the game is. So.
Yeah, how in the world the guy actually isn't even at the next level in the National Hockey League, honestly, is beyond me sometimes. But you know what? Kudos to him, and excited to see what lies ahead next for him as he continues his journey, and an interesting transition for him as well. Speaking of what lies next for us on the docket, we're going to be recording our show on Saturday morning here, talking about the last of the NCHC previews for all the other teams besides St. Cloud State. That's going to be the Duluth Bulldogs that are going to be on the docket for episode number 68. And then coming out, I believe it's going to be late Wednesday night, if not Thursday morning, before I head off to St. Cloud to visit with you, Mr. Nick Maxon, as we've so eloquently revealed in this episode. Bruce Siskey from Duluth Media is going to be joining us to talk a little bit of Bulldogs hockey, and we'll probably razz him about a couple of things, don't you think?
I think so. We got some things ready for him. So. Oh
yeah, absolutely. You better be ready, Bruce. If you're listening, you better be ready. But that will do it for episode number 67 with Ben Holden, and of course, stick around in a couple days for episode number 68.
One-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Parvix!
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies.
Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores!
Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.